NSA breaks the law every day. Doesn't matter who you are or what you say, they monitor your phone calls and emails anyway. Corrupt Congress and courts, paving the way. Here's a lesson they want you to learn someday.
By tens and hundreds of millions of people is at risk. And what we want to do is make sure that corporations aren't bent to serve the arbitrary whims of the state.
And the man.
Come on, y'all. Y'all telling me there's really a man?
He's been over her. You could think of Nancy Pelosi as a politician funded by corporate interests that are not based in San Francisco, who for the last 20 years has co-opted the voice of the country's most progressive city. You know, her leading contributors include pharmaceutical companies, health insurance companies, fossil fuel extraction companies, weapons manufacturers. None of them are based here. Failed corporate rule.
Thing I'll ask you, Shahid, based on all your work at the EFF, is and I know we've talked about this before, but I'd like you to say it for this audience. As far as digital rights goes, what are some things that are definitely on your agenda? You know, if we can talk about municipal broadband, net neutrality, stuff like that.
Thank you for the question, Ron, and it's great to hear your voice. Net neutrality is a human right. If we don't have the same access to the global internet infrastructure, we're all basically going to be taken for a ride, and the promise of the internet can't possibly emerge in a non-net neutral world. This is one of the few areas where I'll actually give Nancy Pelosi credit for showing up. Net neutrality is one of the areas, one of the issues that she has stood for, and I do want to give credit where it's due. Other areas of digital rights, I'm very concerned about antitrust enforcement and the failures of antitrust enforcement over the last generation. This is going to go in a couple of different places. One, under the existing antitrust statutory regime, there's a lot of pressure that members of Congress can put on the Justice Department and the Federal Trade Commission to show up for work. Show up for work by scrutinizing mergers where big companies acquire their would-be competitors, like Facebook acquiring Instagram or WhatsApp, and also scrutinizing anti-competitive acts by companies with market power. So like when Facebook with market power starts unilaterally eroding the privacy protections that it allows its users, those should be cognizable harms for antitrust enforcement. I've written articles to that effect for EF.
And it's part of a pattern of intelligence agencies grabbing power opportunistically, using unfortunate events as an available opportunity. And that's crass. These events should not be opportunities for anyone, including the intelligence agency.
Taken on.
It is indeed.
Why did you decide to jump in this race?
I've long been an advocate for civil rights, for human rights, and I've seen the speaker time and time again over the entire 20 years of my legal career undermine those values. And as an advocate committed to the future, I'm tired of watching our elected political leadership defer to a failed corporate predatory path.
Do is make sure that corporations aren't bent to serve the arbitrary whims of the state.
Gerrymandering, where state legislators basically team up and decide how to divide the territory within their states across their voters. That's exactly what companies are prohibited flatly from doing in commercial markets, but we let political parties and politicians do it all the time. There's no reason that politicians should get away with doing to voters what companies are prohibited from doing to consumers. It undermines the process and it undermines democracy. We can fix that through antitrust law. I also want to statutorily rescind antitrust exemptions that protect sports leagues that abuse their players' and workers' rights. So the NFL benefits from a public subsidy. Right. That's an exemption from antitrust. If they're going to silence Colin Kaepernick, we, the people, should not be subsidizing that industry.
Right on.
And I want to fix that, and we can do that through antitrust law. There's other dimensions of digital rights, like the right to encryption, the right to repair. I'd like to see our rights advance in all of these different dimensions, to see people have more agency over our lives and futures as opposed to less. I think that is, if I were to try to distill my philosophy into its most essential elements. That's it. It's about liberating people so that people can have more choices and can lead more fulfilled lives. And I think the key to that is to make sure that we're not being preyed upon either by intelligence agencies or by corporations or by tech platforms or by our supposed representatives, for that matter.
Okay, I have two questions for you. It's Steph Samarano here. First question is, when you're elected Speaker of the House, will you return to this show?
We might be getting a little ahead of ourselves. I'll try to get into Congress before I worry about who's going to be the speaker. And just for the record, I'm going to be much more eager to support Ilhan or AOC for speaker before I ever seek that kind of role. Please. I appreciate the question.
All right, and the next...
Here's a lesson they want you to learn someday. Watch what you say. They spy on your mind, record your calls for posterity, commit daily executive crimes with impunity. They're the authorities here to keep us safe until inevitably the boot ends up on your face. It's the NSA versus the Constitution. We the people are the ones our agencies are abusing. We can force any agency to make a new choice when we build a movement by each raising our voice.